Hello and welcome to the Happy Little Futures podcast. As always, let's begin with a nice deep breath in and out. Fantastic. So, we've had a bit of a crazy few weeks, really. I fell down the stairs, which was fun. Wasn't fun in the slightest, but ended up leaving me a little bit worse for wear. And just as I was coming out of that, around Halloween, my son tripped over and cut his arm open very badly, and had to have general anaesthetic and get it all stitched back up inside and out. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind for us, hence the silence for a few weeks. But I think there's a lot of lessons that have been learnt over the past few weeks, really. And I thought I'd share some of those with you. In both instances, well, in my case, it was very limiting and trying to manage pain and stuff like that and keep a clear head when I was having to take a few more painkillers than I normally would and stuff, was extremely hard work. Managing my workload, self-care, all of that sort of stuff, that was extremely hard work. Trying to figure out where priorities lie as to what needs doing, what I think should be done, and what actually isn't a priority at all and is my brain just going, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, was very difficult. But I did it with help from my parents and all of that sort of stuff too. They were around to help with the kids as and when needed because my husband was away, obviously, always away. But yeah, it was quite it was quite a hard few weeks. But I think the lessons that I've learned from it, from falling down the stairs, from having to prioritise my physical health and stuff like that, have been quite interesting. I think the first thing that I really noticed was that I've had to take painkillers in the past for my fibro. I quite often will have paracetamol and stuff like that. However, I have used meditation and mindfulness for years now to help control my pain. And more often than not, that is my main source of pain control. And pain management, I suppose, rather than control. And so when I had to, when I didn't really have much choice but to have stronger painkillers than I was having, that was a bit of a mental hurdle for me to overcome. A bit of a thing of, I was frustrated and angry with myself, but I was just like, well, accidents happen. This could happen to anyone. At least you're safe. Nothing's broken. Despite having lots of x-rays at A&E a few days later, when I called to ask for stronger painkillers and got told off by the doctor for not going sooner. Apparently you don't bounce anymore when you start hitting this sort of age. So that was quite a mental hurdle for me to overcome. And actually I found myself not only using sort of breath work to try and help me manage the pain, try and help me control it, try and help myself to stay calm with the kids, because if you're listening to this, the chances are that you've had some interaction with children, and it can get a bit much, especially when you're on a deadline. You've got to get to school, you've got to do all of that. It was still relatively new, the sort of drive into school and stuff. And there was the sort of deeper anxiety there over not making it, over hitting traffic and stuff. So that was quite a challenge. I used breathwork, like I said, to help a bit with the pain. I used affirmations of it's okay to look after yourself. It's okay to have these, to have the painkillers if it means that you can be present for your kids, if it means that you can manage the day to day. I don't really know why I'm not a big fan of taking painkillers. I think I worry that I'll get hooked on something or something. I don't know. But I wouldn't. And so for me, sort of that sort of affirmation-y type thing, really, of it's okay to take that time. It's okay to look after yourself. It's okay to manage your well-being, be it physical or mental, in order to support your family and make you more present. I did a lot of sort of affirmations and reassurance of myself. And I think part of the reason that I was so able to do that is because over the years I've become more and more self-aware of what's going on in my mind, what's going on in my mind, and where I'm at physically and emotionally. And in many cases for me, the more aware I've become emotionally, the more I've noticed parallels in what I'm like, how those emotions, those feelings, those thoughts then drive my physical well-being. And that again was something that I was quite aware of, the fact that actually, yes, it's all coming over me. Like, it's because I've sat down for a few minutes, folks. But it's the awareness of actually, yeah, when I am more stressed, my pain levels will increase. If I do need to stop, my mind will feel more foggy. I quite often end up with, it's not a headache, but it's almost like I've got a tightness in my brain or something. I need to sort of just go, hold on a second, let's take a breath. Let's just reground. If I'm getting frustrated with the kids, feeling overcrowded, overstimulated by them, I find that I start to get a tenseness in my back and my shoulders. And so that awareness, all in all, allows me to then sort of pattern break, basically, to stop that behaviour and to go, sort of pause now, take a deep breath. Right, it's okay that we're feeling like this. It doesn't mean we have to feel like this, or I have to feel like this. I don't know why I'm acting as if there's two me, but so I don't have to feel like this. How would I rather feel? Let's try and reground. So all in all, whilst it was difficult, the self-awareness and stuff that I've learned over the past few years really, well, I say past decade or so, that really came into play and really supported me through that. Made me accepting of help as well, which quite often I don't want to bother people, but I have needed to, and it can be quite a challenge, sort of quite uncomfortable for me to do that. So being accepting of the fact that it's okay to ask for help, it's okay to receive that support. Again, it's recognising that whilst it's an uncomfortable thought, that doesn't mean that I have to go without that support. It doesn't mean that I have to go without that help. And then in turn, sort of reassuring myself that, excuse me, I don't know what's wrong with me today. Reassuring myself that it's okay to be supported by others and to have that help, and you don't have to push through and do it the hard way every single time. So that was what I learned from my escapades down the stairs. So before I continue, I just want to let you know about our sponsor, Rowan Fox. Rowan Fox, it's a fantastic brand of clothing, sustainable clothing for people who love wildlife and are very conscious of the environment and the earth. And her stuff is absolutely gorgeous. Some delightful, absolutely wonderful hand-drawn patterns, hand-drawn characters, sort of wildlife characters. And you can get them on hoodies, on t-shirts, bags, mugs. It's just the perfect sort of time, this time of year when we're heading up to Christmas, to really be looking for these sorts of things for those people who really love wildlife. It's absolutely fantastic. So if you want to have a look at that, head to rowanfox.com or head to Rowan Fox on Facebook or Instagram and check out all of the stuff on there and all the collections, and keep your eyes peeled because she quite often does free postage and stuff. So absolutely fantastic clothing. So moving on, I said also that my son had an accident. This was it's one of the first times I've been very, very relieved that I've got first aid experience. First aid courses under my belt, and it's one of the first times that I've really needed to use them. But he ran into the house. All the kids had just gone out into the garden. He ran in tears, the real silent sobs when they struggle to catch their breath. And he had his hand over his arm, and I went, "Oh, buddy," I said, what's going on? And he let me have a look, and I lifted his hand expecting to see a graze, and that was not what I was faced with in the slightest. It was a very long, very deep cut, very deep, and immediately I knew that he'd need stitches, internal and external, and I was aware that it would probably be local. Well, it would be local, if not general anaesthetic. So I immediately put my hand over his arm, lifted his arm in the air, sort of like kept it raised, turned to my sister and said, "I need to go to A&E now," and sort of went, "Come on, buddy, let's go and get you sorted out." I went and bandaged up his arm and sorted him out. Got him to A&E. And the Children's Hospital here in Birmingham are absolutely incredible. They looked after him really well, got him seen pretty quickly because obviously the type of injury it was. And we were given a date for surgery the following day so that he could go in, have some general anaesthetic, and they could make sure he hadn't caught any muscles or tendons or anything like that. In the moment, I was very much on the ball, first aid mode, like, this is fine, we'll just get it seen, we'll get him to the hospital, all is fine. I got home, or to my parents where we'd been, after having got him through the A&E part of the trip. We were able to go home on Halloween evening, which suited him because he could go trick-or-treating, and then we had to go in on the 1st to go and get it sewn up. And I got home to my parents' house after going to A&E, and I started to have a little bit of a wobble of, hold on a second, my baby's got to go under general anaesthetic. And there's a lot of anxiety. It's something that, even though I've never had to deal with it, I've never had an operation, none of my kids up until that point had ever had an operation. It was something that I was very conscious for years that I was worried about. And like when I had sepsis, there was mention of me possibly going under I had retained placenta. There was a mention of me possibly going under to have that removed, which thankfully didn't need to happen. But it's something that it's sort of, even then, I was concerned about going into general anaesthetic. So once we got home, the anxiety started to kick in. I sort of reassured myself once more, like, I noticed what it was. I sort of allowed myself to know that it was okay to feel anxious, but actually it's not helpful in that moment. My husband wasn't able to come home. He was working away, so it wasn't actually helpful for me to have that anxiety in that moment. When I had to get them home, I had to, like, they wanted to go trick-or-treating still and do all of that sort of stuff. So I rationalised in my head the fact that actually many children have gone under general anaesthetic. It's quite a normal thing for people to do. They'll be very gentle with what they do. It's the best thing for him, and it's going to be worse if he has to go, like, they're not going to really be able to clean it and look at it properly if they do it under local, not with his age and stuff. So I could rationalise what was going on. I can tell you now, that did not ease the anxiety. And when I was explaining it to my family, I was like, look, I understand that he's got to go under. I understand why. I can rationalise that it will be okay. However, that doesn't change the way that I'm feeling. And in that moment, that was something actually that I just had to live with. And when you're looking after children, you can't always let your feelings get in the way of them and let on. I didn't want to worry my son in this instance. It was happening to him. He'd been extremely brave, absolutely blown me away with how brave he was, and has been since as well. And I was very much sort of like, I'm anxious. I labelled it, I'm anxious. That's how I'm feeling. It's okay to be anxious in this situation. I know that this is just a thought. I know that it will probably be okay, and that many people have gone through it before, and all of those sorts of things. And I took some deep breaths. I spoke my anxiety out loud to family, adult family, not kid family, and then I got on with the day. I got on with the rest of the day. It kept coming over me. I reached out to those who I also thought would be understanding or have been through similar, just to sort of gain that sort of, this is what to expect, this is what sort of thing. So, which also helped. That evening, I got all 3 kids into bed. We'd done the trick-or-treating. We'd had the mini sugar rush. I got them into bed and I sat down and I just cried. It hit me. I was on the phone to my husband and it all just hit me. And it was just, I was absolutely overcome with emotion. I'd been jumpy all afternoon, worrying, like, a lot more. Like, I was aware that it was because of what had happened, but every little slip, every little bump, every little sound, I was on extremely high alert that a child could have hurt themselves. and I didn't want to be in that place, but I knew that was where I was. I spoke to my mum and she said she'd come with me the next day to the hospital so that I wasn't on my own, which I really appreciated. And when I was in the middle of my crying session and everything coming over me and all the emotions really hitting, once I clearly felt it was safe, like sort of subconsciously felt it was safe to do so without worrying the kids, I did in the end call my sister to see if I could get a hug. So I was like, I just need some form of human contact. And she came over, which was fantastic. And we had a good chat. So the next day we went in and my son was fantastic. Honestly, he was nil by mouth from about 10 to 7 in the morning and he didn't complain once. He just got on, he read his magazines, he did a bit of Lego, he played with some of the toys. They brought out a Switch and we played on the Switch together, and he just cracked on with the day, acted as if nothing was wrong. He was absolutely amazing. And then in the afternoon, when sort of they discussed who was going to go in first for surgery, blah, 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 we didn't know, we thought he was second or third on the list. We thought he was third on the list. And then all of a sudden these people appeared at the end of the bed and they were like, come on then. And we walked down and we took him into the anaesthetic room, and the nurses and the doctor and stuff like that, they were all absolutely incredible with him. Honestly, I couldn't fault them at all. And he just acted as if nothing was wrong, carried on chatting, and sort of they put him under. And then I had to walk away. And that was the hardest thing I think I've ever done was walk away from him. Not knowing what was about to happen next for him, I suppose, really. So ultimately he came out. He's okay. He's not caught any tendons, muscles, like all of that is okay. But it's sort of left me, considering, where are we now? I think we're pretty much exactly 2 weeks on from when he did it. It's it left me for the first few days in particular extremely on edge. And in that time, things that I did to help me manage my anxiety were breath work when I felt it coming over me, sort of verbal acceptance of what had happened, that sort of those affirmations again, like, accidents happen. This isn't going to happen all the time. This was an accident. You did the best you could for him. You did everything right. He is okay. He is here now. And sort of reassurance again. You know what to look for infections. Trust your gut. Like, all these little things that I was just telling myself. A bit like, quite often we hear the phrase, what would you say to a friend? And it was very much I was telling my friend, like, trust your gut. And it's only now that I'm reflecting out loud that I'm like, actually, yeah, that is what it was like, actually. I was basically just sitting there telling a friend, trust your gut, don't panic, blah, blah, blah. So he's now a lot better. My anxiety is a lot lower. I recovered anxiety-wise a lot quicker than I thought I would. I did have a dream last night where everything burst open on his arms, which I'd forgotten about until about 2 hours ago, and then I had like a weird flashback, and I was like, oh no, I don't want that. But again, it's just a dream. It's not happened. He's okay. You're okay. You're safe. And the school have been absolutely incredible with him, and just made him feel safe, me feel reassured to leave him there. And it's been really, really helpful having them on side. But I think the learning points from this, actually, for you to, I would quite like you to have a ponder on these things yourself, is how do you talk to yourself when things are getting hard? It's really easy, especially as a parent, to sort of downplay how you're feeling. It's really easy. I mean, in some instances, like with the surgery and stuff, like I did have to downplay that to a degree. However, I didn't tell myself it was stupid. Like, don't be stupid, it'll be fine. Because that didn't help me. I did it makes sense that you feel like this. This is a normal reaction. That reassurance of that we would give our child. It's normal to feel anxious. My daughter's been extremely anxious ever since, and it's like it's okay that you're feeling this way, and it's hard because we don't know what's under the bandage. We do now, by the way. It's healing really nicely. The bandage has come off, but sort of we don't know what's under the bandage. We don't know what's to come, and the shock of how quickly something could happen is obviously worrying. But that doesn't mean that every single slip, trip, or fall is going to be a rush to A&E. This was a freak accident. It's sort of that reassuring, gentle inner voice, that gentle, what you would say to a friend approach. And I think it's important that you take time yourself to just think about how you talk to yourself and what you say to yourself to help reassure yourself in situations like that. And just pay attention to that internal dialogue if you have one. Some people don't have that. But even if you don't have one and you find that you feel anxious, what What reassures you in those moments when you're feeling anxious? It could be a hug from a loved one. It could be writing down what you feel. It could be just acknowledging out loud, it's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to be worried. This isn't an everyday accident. This isn't a normal thing. And reassurance like that. And as well as that, I want you to have a think about what you could use in your everyday. What reassures you and relaxes you and helps to ground you in moments when you are more heightened in emotion. So for me, like I said, in both those instances of me falling and of my son hurting himself, I used breath work at some point just to help reconnect with myself, be present in that moment. For you, it might be something like a bath helps you in a moment. It could be that a certain drink, some cacao or something like that, really supports you in those moments. I really want you to have a think and just write it down for yourself. Maybe write down 1 or 2 things that you do for you that help to connect you to the present moment. Like reading a book, wearing your favourite jumper. I quite often find if I'm feeling really tired or overstimulated, I put my hood up. And in doing that, it just creates my own little cocoon. So I want you to have a ponder on that. I want you to really try to connect with yourself and figure out what you would find would work for you. And with that, I'm going to love you and leave you. And I want you to finish off. I'm going to take a deep breath in and release. Fantastic. And I will see you soon.